Welcome back to Game 5 in this Best of 5 series. So we are currently on our ace match in the round of 8. So whoever takes out this match is moving on to the semi-finals in this tournament. At the moment, both players have been playing exceptionally well. We've had games where both players have actually made slight mistakes which eventually created a domino effect which led to their loss, I guess. But then again, there have been matches where there have been very solid plays. Both players executing their builds as they should be, and why not? They are very effective against each other, so it's been a very close match so far, so we'll just have to see who takes out Game 5. At the moment, the winner is kind of unclear, since again both players have been very solid thus far. Most people are expecting Brockemon to win, just mainly because he has been dominating through this tournament, but as of now, considering that OneHand has been able to keep with Brockemon so far, you never know, he may be able to actually topple the person who has been dominating the ladder so far. So let's move on to introducing our players. In the bottom left corner, a wild Zerg appeared by the name of OneHand, and the trainer chooses the blue Terran Brockemon to battle him, and I swear that will be my last Pokemon reference ever. Unless there is a decent name that comes up. If there is, you can't really blame me for that. But yeah, the map is Crossfire, I believe. Personally, I haven't really played on this map, so I don't really know the in and outs of it, but by the looks of it, the walking distance is pretty long, so we may be seeing some predominantly air-based army. There are a lot of entrances to your base, so Brockemon can't really go for his 4 racks Hellion play, or is it 4 racks Siege Tank play? One of those. But OneHand is going for an early expand, yet again, but because it is a large map, he can freely do so. Brockemon does have a SCV inside OneHand's base, so he is going to be able to see that hatchery go up and react accordingly. Now, Brockemon is walling in with the standard 2 supply depot 1 barracks. He hasn't built an add-on on the barracks yet, so he is probably going to be going straight for factory play. OneHand does do the nifty extractor scouting / rebuilding trick. OneHand is getting his spawning pull up as well as getting his gas up, and his expansion does finish up, and Brockmon's SCV actually managed to get away and return to his base. Now Brockemon is getting his factory up, so we probably are going to be seeing some Hellion play as usual. It is pretty effective against Zerg early aggression. It is very effective against... Actually no, it is very effective at doing some very aggressive early pressure against the Zerg, especially since he did go for a fast expand. He kind of has to spread out his defense across 2 bases rather than 1. So if he is kind of slow at reacting to either attacks on either base, he will lose quite a bit of drones in the attack. Now he is throwing the tech lab on, so either it's going to be siege tanks or it is going to be blue flame Hellions. We will just have to wait and see. He finally does throw a reactor up on the barracks, so it probably is going to be blue flame Hellion mixed with a large number of marines. You also see Brockmon's command center getting thrown up, and at the moment there is no additional tech for the Zerg, so we are probably just going to be seeing some early Zergling speed come up, and that will help him defend against the Hellions pretty quickly. Now, because the walking distance is pretty long, Zerg does want to try to get the creep out as quick as possible, and we do see a spine crawler getting thrown up, so OneHand is playing pretty standard at the moment. Brockemon is also playing pretty standard to his style. He does have 1 Zergling placed out here, so that is going to scout for any early pushes, but again, like I said, there are a lot of entrances to your bases, which means there are a lot of exits to your bases. So Brockemon can actually bypass that Zergling, run up this ramp here, which he does decide to do. So Zerg may be caught off guard, but he does have vision at the Zelnaga tower, so he is going to know that the Hellions are on their way. So he is going to reposition the Spinecrawler just to help defend the drone line a lot more easily. Now, Infernal Pre-Ignited does get thrown down, as well as Zergling speed for the Zerg. So at the moment, if we look at the income tab, Zerg is actually ahead on around 1,000 minerals per minute. Terran is falling behind slightly at 800 to 900. He does have a mule on the field, so that is going to help quite a bit, but his worker differential is quite large. There are 25 SCVs for the Terran, 32 drones for the Zerg. And Brockemon is getting a second factory up, so we are going to be seeing a predominantly mech play yet again. He hasn't thrown up his second barracks yet, but knowing Brockemon's play, that will come up pretty soon. Brockemon's command center, or orbital command, has come up, so he is just saving up energies for mules while producing SCVs out of them. Now, OneHand actually chose to use move rather than attack move, so he could have actually sniped off one of those Hellions, but due to that manages to get away. He does decide to pick up a gas at his natural, so looking to tech up pretty quickly here. He is getting the +1 melee attacks, whereas the Terran is just choosing to build more tech structures at the moment. So OneHand is getting his lair up, so we are probably going to be seeing some more upgrades or even some spy tech come up. Going off OneHand's previous play, we're not probably going to see some spy tech come up too quickly. He usually gets mutas slightly later in the game when the Terran is predominantly mech, just because mech is a lot slower. It's going to respond a lot slower to any aggression the Zerg does. The Zerg does do. The Terran is getting his army up, so he is getting some Thors out in anticipation for some mutas. He does fall back to his base, choosing not to be that aggressive. So OneHand is going to manage to escape because the Hellions do have blue flames. They are going to be able to take out quite a lot of those Zerglings, and he does bring some more Marines and Hellions into the mix. So we are actually seeing a Spire getting thrown up for the Zerg somewhere. Stop hiding from me, Spire. Oh, there it is. So that actually is pretty open, so that is quite vulnerable to a drop, but again, because OneHand does have Speedlings up, he is going to be able to clear up any drops pretty quickly. Now, he does regain vision of the Xel'Naga Tower. Again, StarCraft being a strategy game, intel is very important. You want to get as much scouting done as possible. Now, he really should move the Zergling back up to the tower, which he probably is going to do after his Zerglings are in position. Now, he is trying to force a... Actually, no, he's not going to force a stim, because the Terran don't have stim yet. Spire is almost about to finish, so we probably will see some mutas popping out at any moment now. Now, OneHand is just placing the Zerglings there just in case the Terran does decide to go for a third, since that is generally where it's going to be placed. This is the 2v2 map, so there are only 2 spawning positions, so that generally is going to be a third, or you can be a bit risky and place your third here, which is kind of at a larger walking distance, so you're not going to be able to defend it all that well. Well, at least not this early on in the game. Now, OneHand is getting a second Evo chamber up that is going to help him pump out those upgrades a lot quicker. And Brockemon is moving out with a couple Marines, just trying to get some vision of the field. Going to snipe at that Zerg, which wasn't placed back at the Xel'Naga Tower, which probably is a slight mistake, to be honest. He would have actually not seen much. He would have seen that one Marine there, that's about it. But it's always good to have some vision of the map. Now, the Zerglings are going to clean that up and regain vision. The mutas are out on the field. The Terran can probably see it from this distance, but actually he does, and he does bring his Marines to the edge of the cliff. He kind of does get them out of position, swinging around to the high ground where the Marines can't really get to them all that quickly. Now, the mutas are going to be forced back. Now, he does have the option to go to the main mineral base while all the units are out of position. The Thors are going to take a while to get there. The Marines are going to be blocked by a couple of the buildings, so the attack is not really going to be all that effective. Going straight for the middle line probably would have been better than trying to snipe off a tech structure. Since you don't really have all that much mutas, it will take quite a few hits to be able to bring that down. The Terran is going for his expansion, so he is looking to get his 4th, and going off the placement, he is probably looking to actually get his 4th in this position. That could be a good thing, that could be a bad thing. OneHand does have a Zergling place there, so he is probably going to see that command center fly over, probably not. He could place an Overlord here to get some scouting over there, but opting to keep his Overlords inside his base. The Terran is getting vehicle attack level 1 upgrades. Zerg choosing to go for flying attack upgrades level 1, as well as carapace, and level 2 melee. So we are going to be seeing the general Zergling possibly bailing muta mix by the Zerg, and the Terran is going to be committing quite a bit to the tech, to the mech army, as well as just complementing his army with a couple more Marines. We do have 3 factories up at the moment, with a 4th coming up. We are still only running on 1 barracks. With the Terran's income as it is, he could probably afford to throw up a couple more barracks, which he is probably going to look to do right now, since he is bringing the barracks up, and he can basically force out as many infantry units as he wants. Now, the income for the Zerg is actually pretty decent at the moment. He is sitting around 1,600 in comparison to the Zerg's 1200. The Terran does have 2 mules on the field, so that does come into play quite a bit. Zerg is getting level 2 attack upgrades, still working on the level 1 carapace upgrade as well as level 2 melee. He's also getting the Baneling speed. Zerg could probably work on spreading his creep a little more. He is leaving his creep trimmers kind of idle. If he wants to make the Banelings as effective as possible, he really should work on spreading his creep quite a bit. Now the Hellions are going to get picked off by the Speedlings, and basically that's going to deny any scouting, because with Hellions they are going to be able to run pretty freely around your base unless you can take them down really quickly. Now I'm surprised his Zergling is still alive. That's basically been sitting there since the start of the game. I guess it just is outside of the vision of the Terran. So that is one lucky Zergling. It's actually going to make it through this match, hopefully. Although I highly doubt it, but you never know. Could be one hero Zergling. Now, the Zerg is actually choosing to be pretty passive with these mutas. He isn't really trying to do all that much damage. He could be afraid of the missile turrets. He could be afraid of the Thors. As far as Thor placement goes and missile turret goes, it is actually pretty secure, but there are pockets of undefended sections within this Terran's base. He could sack an Overlord, try to get as much detail about the Terran's building layout as he can, and then he can pick out weak spots and try to attack that. Now the Hellions do manage to get away from the mutas. Other than that, the Terran is actually getting his his third base up, and also double expanding to get his fourth. Now this is actually, he is getting the high yield, so yes, that is going to help his economy, but at the moment it is actually in quite a dangerous position. As you can see, the Zerg's creep is actually spreading out into this direction, so he can either go past here, or if the Zerg really chooses to, he can poke down here, which will obviously spot the fourth. So unless he can get his defense up pretty quickly, he won't be able to defend that all too well. And because he is going for mainly Thors, mainly Siege Tanks, mainly Hellions, he isn't going to be able to defend too quickly. He could post a couple Marines there, but if you do a Zergling run by or Baneling run by, they will get taken out pretty easily. Now, OneHand does take out another Scouting Hellion. So at the moment, the Hellions aren't really going to be all that useful. There are a lot of Zerglings that will pick off the Hellions pretty quickly. So he is just using them for what they can be used for, and in this case, it is going to be to get some scouting information. Now the Zerg is moving into a very offensive position. He can basically either choose to check the fourth, which he actually doesn't. That could be a pretty bad idea actually. Especially if Terran does manage to drop down a lot of mules there. They will be able to basically rack up the gold really quickly. But Zerg is sitting on 3,000 minerals, so he is going to be okay for the moment. He is attacking the third. He does force a lift off. Most of these SCVs will get picked off, and the mutas actually choosing to run away from the missile turrets. Missile turrets do get taken down, so the mutas can come in and kill off this command center, but choosing only to do it right now. Choosing not to do it at all. Don't quite agree with that, to be honest. Although the Thors are moving in, so he does want to get out of there really quickly. Baneling's trying to moving in and taking out all of those Thors. I've said this before in Game 3 and Game 4, you really need to watch your unit placement. If they all clumped up on the ramp, for example, the Banelings will run in and do terrible damage. And most of you are going to hate me for using that phrase, but terrible damage. Well, I screwed that up. Joy. He does force liftoff of the third base. He is going to move it over. And if the Zerg was actually paying attention to that, he would actually probably assume that the fourth base is up. But he is going to wait for those units to clear out. The mutas finally do come in trying to take that out. We do have more Thors in production for the Terran, more Mutalisks for the Zerg, as well as the third base actually getting pretty saturated at the moment. He can probably look into getting a fourth. He does have 3,300 minerals in the bank. Those could be a lot of Zerglings. He isn't supply capped at the moment, so he can basically pump out as much units as he wants. The supply is around 150 for the Zerg, 151 for the Terran at the moment. If you look at the unit composition, we do have 47 SCVs for the Terran and 2 mules on the field at the moment, where